what was your thoughts and what were you seeing? And like, how did the industry work in that sense to where you're like, this is where I'm going to spend the next 40 years of my life. And in that time, this is the industry that's going to allow me to do these other things that are part of my purpose.
You are giving me way too much credit for forethought.
Well, hold on. I think that I've spent enough time with you now to understand, like, you got a lot of horsepower upstairs. So I know that you're not absent-minded in the way that you approach shit, right? And your book kind of shows that. We're hosting an event at the end of this month. And I think we're buying 100, 150 copies to hand out. But what I'm saying is that's how profound it was. I gave one to the members of my team. We have a lot of people that we bring in from outside the industry and they have no idea what the dialect or anything.
That was a big part of the reason that I wrote that book.
So when was that? You want to start at that first then? Like, when did you wake up and be like, I'm writing a book?
Well, I've done a lot of writing throughout my career anyway. Lots of white papers. I've developed tons of curriculum because that's how you pass that knowledge on, right? Yeah. And so I was looking to buy some books to donate to a coding academy, something about the data center industry, because a lot of the kids, I think, coding is really the only exposure they get to tech. And
that's true.
And if they hate to code, then they assume they hate tech. And that's such a tiny, mini little piece of the whole industry, is, especially the data center industry. And so I got to looking, and there's the only thing out there. There was an 800-page book that was co-written by 59 industry professionals, and I thought, who in the heck is going to read that to see if they want to join an industry?
Never even heard of it.
Because there's no real data center curriculum out there. There's a few programs, but not a lot. And honestly, this industry is so crazy vast that there's room for everybody. This industry has the ability to be the most diverse industry on the planet, and it should be.
What's stopping it?
Sometimes we just can't get out of our way, I think.
Who's we?
People as a whole. But I think part of it is that we're not attracting kids because the kids don't realize that this industry exists. Unless you happen to live like in a Loudoun County or something. Yeah. Go home and ask your kids, have you learned about data centers in school?
So it's funny you say that. My son is a freshman in college right now, and he was sending me questions for the very first time. He's in his second semester, his freshman year of college. He's writing some paper, he's in, and I'm explaining things in the simplest of terms, but I've noticed that, you could ask a doctor, you could show the doctor 5 different doctors the same thing, get 5 different answers. And I've learned that over the course of time. Of course, I've had conversations with my kids. I try to have conversations suitable for the backyard barbecue, but I've noticed, and my kid has even helped me understand that it's very inconsistent in how I talk about it. It is almost like the message itself or the narrative about our industry evolves as we do. Would you agree?
Well, the industry evolves continuously.
So how do you code lock something to where kids that are exposed to that now understand what that will still kind of look like? And I think it's just a broader aperture we have to figure out how to speak to versus a very narrow focused one.
Well, my thing is, I think first off, you have to have exposure, right? You can't ask an intelligent question if you're ignorant, and we're all ignorant till we know. And I don't think it should be that difficult. I think that kids should have the opportunity to see this as a career path. Now, there are data centers in every single city that you know. They might be a company-owned data center. Exactly. Right. They might be a company-owned data center. It might be a piece of a cloud. It might be edge data centers going in, or it might be a big colo area like Austin or Dallas or Loudoun County, Virginia, or some of those others, or even developing countries where there aren't many, and they're just trying to figure that out. But my take is, when I decided to write this book, I was going for 3 things. 1, like I said, there wasn't anything out there like that. 2, I don't think it has to be that difficult. I think that you can give a high-level view of what the industry is so somebody can see where they fit in. It's not if they fit in, it's where they fit in.
I agree with that.
And it's not just, some people like to write code, and we need those people. We need them in the data center. We need them out of the data center. But don't tell the coders I said this, but that's a little tiny piece of the pie, right? So I think just letting them know. So the goal with this book was pretty easy. I wanted it to be under 200 pages. I didn't quite make it. It's 210, but I was close. I wanted it to be easily digestible in a weekend. I wanted it to have some simple explanations for some of the technical terms and acronyms that people are going to see, but I wanted it to be easy enough that somebody from like junior high up could understand it, because this industry can get technical. And I think one of the problems that we have in this industry is everybody that writes these books and does all these things, which a lot of them tend to be vendor kind of related, but they all write it in such a technical way that the first page in a lot of cases, people just gloss over and they completely lose it and they think, oh, this is not for me because it's too hard or I have to do too much math and a lot of it, some of that's the way it's presented in school. Some of that's just an assumption. Like we know we use tech, right? We know how to make an app work on our phone. But if I came to you and said, I need you to write that program right there, and that's going to be your career in tech, and that's the only exposure you get, what are you going to do? You're going to run for the hills. And I just don't think that it needs to be that bad. So I particularly hit women, trades, and vets. It obviously applies to everybody.
Not enough pictures for us veterans. I'm just being honest. Maybe some pop-ups.
They cost more. And then you have to go over an extra 200 pages. But anyway, I'll make pictures for you guys if you want. I'm happy to do that. But the point was trades. I think we owe the trades everything. If it weren't for the trades, nothing would be built. And I think the people that know how to just reach and get it and make things fit and make things work, that is invaluable knowledge.
I think you're talking about listen, if I'm hearing you right, because I don't want to, you're talking about people that have a trade craft, a skill, they use their hands to do things that can bring things to life, visions to life. Is that what you're talking about?
Absolutely.
So to that end, I agree. I think that there's a lot of honor in some of the things that people do. Like I run into these construction programs and the people that are just specialists, it's almost like they're art, like coders would kind of call it. It is art. But these people that are building at every element throughout the trades, that's a special talent. And now I think there was a time where we took that for granted until now we're all, you're talking about 40 years in industry and half of our industry has been in this industry for more than 20 years. The silver tsunamis.
I hope I'm part of that.
Well, listen, those
at some point.
But before you do, you're leaving your fingerprint on the industry, with your books and podcasts and all the things that you guys are doing. And I know that you're a champion of a lot of things. I could tell, I knew before you and I were going to talk about certain things because I specifically was like, I'm not talking about that with you because I want to talk about certain things. But I also knew that there's so much to unpack. And I think the books are awesome and I love books. I'm in a part in my life in which, you know what I love more than books? Audiobooks. Because I can listen to your audiobook while lifting weights. I can listen to it while driving down the road. Because
that's being edited right now.
My thing is I lost all confidence in media. So, more of the news media, I think that if you look back in time, there's enough elements in which they're just, I don't know of another industry that could be wrong so often and still have such high interest, right? You could be wrong about everything and people will still turn that thing on.
It's almost like they're all weathermen.
Must be nice. But I started shifting over to what I can listen to because I started just gorging myself on podcasts, right? And I wanted to find out as much as I could. So I'm just scrambling through and being like, who's got a podcast about this industry that I can chew through? And I think that your book was awesome because there are people that are they're going to be in stages of their life where they can sit down and read it over the weekend. A lot of people that are trying to reinvent themselves, they're healing over the weekend or recovering, from doing something a lot of people aren't happy with what they do. Can you believe that? A lot of people are not happy with what they do for a living. And
oh yeah. Do you know a third of all college graduates work in a job that has nothing to do with their degree?
I'm not even a little surprised.
Yeah.
I'm not.
And so I think that's the deal. There's room for this industry is so vast between just the data centers themselves, everything that supports them, all of the technology that goes into them, marketing, outreach, finance, legal, there's room, real estate, there's room for tons and tons of professions in the data center industry. And my deal was I just want people to know them. So I want, if a kid is coming out of high school or a vet is transitioning, I wanted something they could sit down and consume in a weekend and say, oh, this is where I fit. Now you can go find those other specialties or you can figure out, maybe some kid grew up on his dad's farm and he loves driving heavy equipment. Well, hey, we need those too.